Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Munch, munch, munch.
Hello and welcome to Daddy Eats Last, where we discuss the challenge of being a man in modern society and whatever the hell that even means. I'm Kane, and joining me, as always, are Ryan and Maddie. Firstly, gents, how's the weekend?
Pretty good, boys. Ryan, evening. Kane, good to talk to you again. Pretty cruisy weekend this weekend. Kim and I actually got to go out last night to see a bit of a show. We went and saw Sammy J, his political party show, and then this morning went out for breakfast just with the family and caught up with my brother for lunch and managed to duck out for a run this afternoon with Sammy in the pram. So ticked a lot of boxes.
Yeah, that's impressive. Running with Sammy in the pram.
Yeah, so we've got this running pram, which I haven't used since we bought it, really. Kim's used it a few times, but he's at the age now where he's not going to bounce around too much when you're running with him in the pram. So, yeah, he sat there quietly, loved it, just took in the scenery.
That's funny, they really do. Is he forward-facing now or still facing you?
He's forward-facing in the pram, but in the car he's still rear-facing.
Yeah. So
this running pram only goes forwards.
Yeah, so Ryan, for the first X period of a kid's life, they face you when you're walking in them, and then at some point they want to face away. And we had a real issue with our little fella that he was getting to the stage where he really didn't want to look at us anymore. He wanted to look at the rest of the world, which is understandable. I would too. So yeah, Sammy's obviously got to that point where he doesn't want to look at you anymore, Matty.
No, I don't know why. I've got a lovely face, but yeah, he likes to look forward, not back. So
makes sense. Well, yeah, Ryan, what'd you get up to?
Didn't actually even know about prams that you had to get. I just thought they all looked forward. So I learn something new every day.
Write that down on your list.
Oh, well. Not much here, actually. Bit of engagement party planning, bit of hockey, which I got smacked in the foot with a ball, which was fun. So I've been hobbling around like an 80-year-old today. And yeah, just a little bit of work, bit of study. I'm doing a director's course at the moment, which is becoming a bit consuming, but that's all right. It'll finish this month, so that's fine.
There you go.
I'm very exciting this weekend.
Oh, it's still pretty exciting.
As the kidless person.
Still pretty exciting. It's exciting in its own way. Doing some education, you can fit that in. That's cool.
Yeah, I guess so. We'll take that positive spin on it. I like it.
Well, we're going to look at some more positive things or potentially positive things or things that you're looking forward to in the rest of your long, long life, because we're looking at your bucket list tonight. So you ready to dip in and pull out something from your bucket list and share with us?
Yes. So looking at this, I have many different areas, but the one that I'll probably start with is probably very relevant to the podcast here. Is on my bucket list. You two already ticked this one, but I would like to have kids. No surprise there, but that's a bucket list item for me.
It's an easy one to kind of fulfill to some extent. But yeah, there's some planning put into the output as well as the pram conversation maybe just kind of showed.
Yeah, probably need to do a bit more planning, and it was probably still a couple of years away from that one. With the more the partner's thoughts than my thoughts, but no, ideally two little rugrats would be a lot of fun and definitely on the bucket list. So hopefully we'll pick that one off in life.
Has this been a sort of a long held bucket list item for you? Is this something you've always wanted to do, or has it been more recent?
No, probably long held. I've probably never not thought of doing it. And if it was up to me, I probably would be having kids now. However, we'll wait a couple of years. But yeah, I have quite an urge to.
As we discussed last week, it's a bucket list item for a lot of people out there. You know, marriage, kids, tattoos, they're all things which came up as common bucket list items. You know, the third one really easy to do. You just go down the shops and get it done. The first two, a little bit harder to come by depending on where you shop.
Very true, very true. And I've already knocked the tattoo one off, so we've got that one covered.
We might do another episode on tattoos at some point, because yeah, you do have tattoos. Matthew discussed his tattoo a little bit last week, which you might get amended for no mouth to mouth. But no, it makes a lot of sense, kids being on the bucket list. And that would be really high up on the bucket list?
Yes, definitely in the top 5 things to do in life that I've formulated. I guess formulated a list of top 5 things.
Do you have any nieces or nephews, Ryan? Are you? Yeah. Do you?
No, I don't, because I'm the oldest. TK's got a nephew, little one who's 18 months. So that would be the first. But I'm also the oldest of my family, and there's a 9-year age gap between my sister and I. So I sort of grew up with kids, and I'm also the oldest on my dad's side. So all of my, I guess, cousins on that side were much younger than me. So I sort of grew up surrounded by little kids.
Okay. And do you have a lot of kids in your life at the moment? Like, many of your friends got kids, or?
They're just starting to. So we were out to dinner last night with a friend who's got a 9-month-old. So we met her, and then another friend of ours, 6-month-old, another friend with a couple of kids under 3. So everyone's sort of making those moves now. A buddy of mine just had a kid he's in Canberra, so we'll have to get over there and check it out. But he just had his daughter a week ago. So
wow.
it's starting to happen. We're in that age.
After dinner last night with a couple who had a 9-month-old, were we having dinner at like 4:30, 5 o'clock?
No. I mean, we were having dinner at like 6:30, and it was all wrapped up. She was a bit stroppy by about 9 when it was wrapped up. But
you're still partying on at 9.
Yeah, she was. She's normally apparently 8 is when she goes to bed. So she pushed out till about 9, got a little bit stroppy there, but was actually they are super lucky. She's a very, very well behaved kid, or very just happy go lucky, easy kid.
She'll regress soon enough. They all do.
I was thinking about it last night, going, this actually looks pretty good. I was talking to TK, I was like, if we end up with a kid like that, it'd be great.
What else is on your bucket list, mate? That's a good one. What else is in there?
Yeah, so I guess more whilst not having a kid, more adventurous things. So there's plenty of travel stuff on the list. I'm a big traveller. I think travel is fantastic. So got a couple of adventure ones, which is similar to Maddie. I do want to get to base camp. It's a bit of a big goal, and also just generally going through the Himalayas and enjoying the mountains and doing a couple of treks through there. I'd like to get to one of the poles. I don't really care which of the two, but definitely to knock off either the north or the south would be really cool. Check out the pyramids, and Machu Picchu as well are all very high up on the adventure list. I'm lucky that I've already bungee jumped off the tallest bungee in the world, and I already have skydived, so they've sort of already been ticked. But yeah, a couple of those adventure ones, and I would also, it is very much on both mine and TK's bucket list, we would love to live overseas. So do that whole go and do a stint overseas and yeah, live the expat life for a little bit.
Now, of all those locations and potential activities at those locations that you just mentioned, is there one of those which stands out above all of them? Is it base camp? Is it one of the other ones which stands out as, I guess, the pinnacle of things you wanted to do?
Yeah, I don't think I can go past base camp, the Himalayas. If I got really into that might, tick base camp off, and I don't know, depending on what age I do that and how fit I am, I might think of doing the whole to the summit of Everest. I have thought about that before. So yeah, for me, base camp's probably the first one there.
What does a summit involve compared to base camp?
So base camp's about 2/3 up, I believe. So don't quote me on that one, but I'm pretty sure base camps are around the 5,000 feet and summit's 8. So it's it involves a lot more likely chance that you don't make it back down when you go to the summit.
No, obviously that's intense.
Yeah. So we'll get base camp first, I think.
if base camp is on your list, Kane, that's 3 out of 3. We should do a podcast from base camp live.
Oh, mate, I'd just be happy to get to third base. Base camp doesn't interest me that much, but yeah, I'm happy to tag along to base camp if it's something you guys both want to do. I'm happy to help fulfill other people's bucket lists.
You can be support crew.
Yeah, I could be. I could probably conceivably be a Sherpa or something like that. I guess. Lug your bags.
Well, Matty will completely plan the trip, as we found out last week. So he'll completely plan it, and then I'll climb it, and then you can be a support crew.
It's going to be a very easy sort of exercise to get to base camp. I've not completed my bucket list, so I'll analyse base camp, and then if you like you're saying, if it's all 3 of us are on there, yeah, live podcast from base camp. Lock it in.
Where is the tallest bungee spot in the world, Ryan?
In Macau, in the Las Vegas of Asia. It is one of the Grant Hackett ones. So that was the guy who jumped off the Eiffel Tower to do and sort of set up bungees all around the world. 263. Don't quote me on it, but I think it was about 260 odd meters that I jumped.
Impressive.
Wow. Now, if another bungee is made bigger in the world, are you going to feel the need to do that one?
Probably, yes. Depends on what age I am. But definitely, if there was another one that was made bigger in the next decade, yeah, I'd make my way to jump off that one as well. One of the most scariest things I've ever done in my life, but one of the most exhilarating things I've ever done in my life.
What does it
feel
like?
I did get in a lot of trouble. Flying. It genuinely feels like flying. Yeah, until obviously it feels like a lot of fear until you recoil and bounce back up and realize that you're not going to hit a concrete block on the ground and die. But yeah, it just feels like flying and utter freedom. But I did it a couple of years ago when I was in Macau, actually on a work study tour thing. And I kind of didn't tell anyone about it, including my mum, TK, sort of no one, except for the colleagues that I was there. So I jumped off. One of the colleagues had videoed it and then posted it online, and that's how my own mother found out that I jumped off a building. She was not impressed.
I can understand why to some extent, but like at the same time, it was all okay. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, that was my argument. I was like, well, I'm still here to tell the tale. So, but no, highly recommend the bungee jump.
My sister jumped out of a plane in lieu of having a hens party, and she didn't tell anyone. I don't think she just went and did it and wasn't having a hens party. And she loved it. So, and she would have been maybe the last person I would have thought would have got a real kick out of it. But she raved about it. So yeah, I can feel it. What else is in the bucket?
Yeah, so I suppose the living overseas piece, and then another thing that I've always wanted to do with that bit of travel piece is I'd love to weirdly do a 3-month road trip through America. Like you sort of see where people get those beat up sort of cars, or put a mattress in the back of a wagon style car and just road trip around the States would be quite fun. So that has hit the bucket list pretty high up.
Wow.
Probably sneak that in before kids.
Yes, definitely. I'm not sure how a 9-month-old would go in the back of a ute, for want of a better term, for 3 months or so. It's like the Blues Brothers or the Dukes of Hazzard or something. That's probably going way, way, way before you were born, but similar to that, just jumping in and just going cross country. Yeah,
no, that's actually part of the idea. And they did remake a Dukes of Hazzard film, so I did catch up on that one in my generation time.
Refreshingly poor version of Dukes of Hazzard, that film.
Yes,
it was. Jessica Simpson playing Daisy Duke or something. I don't know.
She got a one-hit wonder song out of it as well, with the boots are made for walking.
That's awful. That is. Your taste in films sometimes bothers me.
But no, I'd love to, just get a car like that and hit a 3-month road trip just around the States. I mean, longer if I can, but I don't think their president's overly keen on giving people visas more than 3 months, even if you are blonde. So
That'd be super cool. Would you start in a particular place and go to a particular place? Have you got to that sort of level of, I say, planning or notionally sort of having an idea of the locations you want to go through?
Yeah, I'd probably just start up in San Fran or LA, somewhere on that side, and get across to New York, and it would probably be that real typical going down the sort of the southern states all through there, all through America. Try not to get shot or in any bar fights, but yeah, do that whole travel through, check it all out, go through the Bible Belt, all that kind of thing, and wind up in New York.
Very cool.
So that's another travel piece. So travel's a big part of it, but I guess in terms of, much like Maddie as well, in terms of fitness, I would like to clock off a marathon. That's it's been a bit of a life goal for a while. I'm doing a half marathon next weekend actually, and interestingly, with what you were saying last week about most people seem to do it when they're 29 years old, and I turn 29 at the end of this year. So next year I might be running a marathon.
Yep, I'll almost lock that in, that you'll do it between, sometime before turning 30. Yeah, most likely after you turn 29. So that's, you may as well chalk it off the list. I'm calling that done.
Yeah, hopefully. The other big thing for me is, as much as the travel piece is huge, I'm very ambitious work-wise and career-wise, and a big fan of business. So I've got on my bucket list, I would really like to build or run quite a big business. So head up a solid company and sort of play, I guess, at a very high level in that space. That is very much on my bucket list to achieve. Thankfully, I think that one I've probably got a little bit more time up my sleeve than needing to be super fit to knock off Everest. But yeah, that's the career, definitely the career bucket list goal for me.
So are you talking being a CEO of an organisation, or looking after a big division of people inside a corporation, or what does that look like detail-wise?
Yeah, I've left it somewhat vague to give it a little bit of flexibility over sort of the next decade or two. But I guess the automatic go-to thought is a CEO, or at least playing at that level. So, very close to that, or having definitely built a business, even if it's built a small business into a large business. So definitely at least at an executive level at a minimum. But ideally, a CEO would be pretty awesome.
Excellent. And you're already working towards that with some of the education that you're doing, you mentioned before, and some of the roles and different things you're doing. So you're working towards that bucket goal. Like, while you don't have an explicit definition around it at the moment, and it can be a much, much longer term goal. You're at least putting some things in place now which move you closer towards that bucket list item, which is a really important part of the bucket list process, is while you have these bucket list ideas, that you keep working towards them in some way as well. Like, you both mentioned a marathon, you both run, I'd almost say religiously, like you both run really frequently. You're taking steps to move towards this other bucket goal and things like that. And Maddie's obviously done some of the stuff that he mentioned last week with regards to things that he's wanting to do. So for people out there, this is the other important part of having a bucket list. While a bucket list is great for an aspirational goal, you also still need to actually work towards them. They're not just going to happen.
Yeah, I think a bucket list is really good in terms of viewing the goals, because you can take a much longer term approach with these things. So certainly, being the CEO or an executive of a really large company, or building one, isn't going to happen overnight. So it's just, it sort of at least gives some motivation into all the little steps to get to there. Hopefully it comes off, but at a minimum, I'm sort of trying to set myself up in the best position to do that. And as part of that, another goal on my bucket list, which is a bit of more of a longer term one, but one that does involve some more planning, is that I certainly want to buy my mum a house. That's actually hit my bucket list. I'd love to, be in a position financially and wealthy enough to be able to look after her with a house and no debt, so that she can choose to keep working or stop, and hopefully look after my kids quite a bit.
So the house will be closer to you then in her current location.
I don't know that I'll win that argument. I think it'll be needing to pick up an investment property over in Perth and just fund a lot of flights. So
I think that's a really sort of noble item to have on your bucket list, is to help somebody else, and that might form part of my bucket list next week when everyone gets to listen to the most boring bucket list in the history of bucket lists. But what else is on yours?
Don't yourself short there.
You just wait, my friend. What else is on yours?
So I've put a fair bit of thought into this, so I'm probably overly ambitious with my bucket list, but I also want, as well as buying my mum a house, I also want to buy us a house. So we're very fortunate in the fact that we do own property, which I say we're very fortunate because not many people in their late 20s own property completely off their own, back or volition. But we don't own the house that we want to have, our kids in the suburb that we necessarily want to, settle. So if we can tick the whole go and live overseas and do a bunch of travel and then eventually come back and, run a big business, then by virtue, I'd also like to, get us a nice little house in one of the suburbs that we would like to pick up, which I think is a bit of a, we talk about those longer term goals and normalizing a few things. I think is a big goal for a lot of people in Generation Y that is not, I wouldn't say a goal that is a given or a bucket list item that's a given anymore. So it's on my bucket list. And I suppose some more fun ones or less serious ones that would be great if I can get on there, but if I don't, it might not be the worst thing that I don't get them. But I always have, probably especially from uni days, wanted to own a bar as a bucket list item. And I think owning a bar one day or a winery or something like that would be pretty cool.
I actually took steps towards that when I was about 25. No, maybe not 25, sort of late 20s, about owning a bar, and specifically actually planning one out and things like that. So at one point it was definitely on my bucket list. So I can completely understand that. They're an exceptionally poor investment, but they're also damn cool.
They are. They're a very poor investment, having sat on an entertainment hospitality company board. They have very little margins, but extremely cool. So I don't know, maybe we'll revisit the owning a bar idea next week with you.
Well, maybe. Might be a hole in my bucket now. I might have slipped out now that I'm old, and I can't remember the last time I went to a bar. But the bar goers out there, I can understand. Having your own bar would be convenient at the very least.
Yeah, or the other one that's crept in there, I guess, fulfilling that kind of a bar, winery, just owning something like that. I'd be also quite content with owning a cafe/coffee roastery to now that I'm getting a bit older and working some long hours, to allow for caffeine to be my friend. I actually have one of my friends right now at the moment going, you do some investing, you should look at buying a cafe one day, so that I think it's just so that he gets free coffee. But anyway.
No free rides.
Exactly.
Charity case?
Yeah, no. Actually, the amount of coffee that he drinks, I wouldn't have it for very long if I gave him freebies, because I'd be pretty broke. And the last sort of thing that I've got on there that's very vague at the moment, but I'm a big fan of history, and looking at, leaders of history or events that have happened or things that has just occurred throughout, I guess, the human race and all those kind of things. And I've just been pondering of lately, so it's a bit of a new addition, but I'd love to find a way that with my hobby of history that I could have either more time for it, or I could somehow involve it into some form of work that I do. So that's a bit of a left field one for me on the bucket list.
Oh man, for 1 second there, I thought you were going to say I want to travel back in time in a time machine, build a time machine and go back in time. I got that is the best bucket list item I've ever heard. It's still it's still an awesome bucket list item, but I thought it was going to be time travel.
I'm not going to lie, I would jump on time travel if I could. I would absolutely jump on time travel. I'm definitely not technologically smart enough to build a time machine though.
Well, where would you
maybe in the future?
Where would the first place you would go to? Like, where back in time? Have you any thought randomly into that? That might be another podcast topic, actually. But is there anything off the top of your head that you could think of time-wise that you'd go back to?
Yeah, there is. For me, the first kind of go-to ones are the periods of World War I and World War II. Just fascinated with how the world operated back then to get a touch point on it, and some of the leaders that sort of shaped, I guess, the world that we live in now, which is completely opposite to that. And I'd love to go to ancient Greece. So even as a teenager, and I remember English assignments and history assignments and all that kind of thing, I would study up around the Troy and Trojan warfare and all the ancient Greece sort of time period would probably be the first ones that I'd jump to and go and see what the world was like back then.
I think I'd like to take almost the entire population of Twitter and Instagram back to, say, 1900, so they could see what life was like before technology and entitlement. But yeah, both war periods in ancient Greece I can completely understand as well. Depends how much room's in your time machine.
Yeah, if you can get between a bunch of others and that kind of thing. But I do think one thing that I found in the last sort of probably 12 months is studying just out of hobby, World War I, World War II, and the events that were happening there and the things that caused them and that sort of thing. Certainly makes you look at life today a little bit differently, with very little entitlement and a whole lot of gratitude. So, which I guess sort of brings me to the last point around when I was really looking at, there's this bucket list and these things to tick off and that sort of thing. But I thought, what would derail a bucket list? Like, what would I get to sitting on the porch at 80 or 90 and be like, I'm really disappointed that I did this or did that or whatever it happened to be, as opposed to, ticking off this bucket list stuff. And I was talking to TK about it, and really insightfully, it was as much as ticking all this bucket list stuff off and achieving all this is really important. I don't think it's really worth anything if it's not done every day sort of by living in line with values. So, building, take being a CEO or building a really big business, if that was of a tobacco company, I would kind of see that, yes, while I technically ticked it off the bucket list, I did sell my soul. So I think the thing that is fueling me towards a lot of the items that I'm pretty confident that I'll tick off is actually aligning them with just genuinely values, and sort of trying to live each day aligned with those values. And then the bucket list is like the big goals to aim for and to go for. Like having kids, for example, you could tick that one off, but if they're adults and never speak to you because you're an asshole of a parent, well, it's not really achieving a bucket list item for me, I guess.
Makes a lot of sense. Matthew, got anything to add? Just derobing?
Yeah, I'm getting a bit hot here.
And take off all your clothes. I can take my clothes off. Sing
Nelly?
Yeah, sing Nelly. Was that on the bucket list? You saw 50 Cent, didn't you?
No, Nelly.
There we
go.
Yeah,
it was Nelly.
Genius, linking back to prior podcasts. You can see that on podcast episode 24, where Brian was live from Vegas.
No, seeing Nelly was not on the bucket list. I don't know if seeing any band would be on my bucket list, but I definitely was disappointed that a week after I was in Vegas, the Backstreet Boys were performing there, and I missed out on that one. So I'd be quite happy to see that.
Hey, keep building that time machine.
time machine would help with that.
So I guess a lot of those items on those bucket lists we've heard tonight from Ryan probably may happen or would be probably beneficial or better to happen probably pre-kids, wouldn't they? Like the road trip, you probably wouldn't want kids there. The living abroad overseas, although that could be insightful for the child if they're a certain age, I guess. Would always be fun. Base camp, I don't know if you want to do that or climb Everest whilst you've got a child or pre.
I'd be ticking off a few of them pre-kid. It would
so
all be the kid being on the bucket list.
You might have to get cracking.
That particular bucket list item could actually, put a hole in the bucket or fill your bucket completely, thereby meaning all other bucket list items is very difficult or redundant to some extent.
Yes, it could put a damper in them. So there's a couple that I've flagged that I would like to knock off pre-kids, which is probably the overseas stint. Definitely if I own a bar, that would probably be pre-kids. And I would say, base camp or definitely the poles or the pyramids, or at least one of those I'd like to knock off pre-kids along with the road trip. So I've got a little bit to do in the next couple of years, actually.
Well, as a dad, I could probably see some value in having a bar post-kid. It would make it nice and easy when you did need to escape for the afternoon or the evening. But that does wrap up for this week on Daddy Eats Last. Remember to subscribe to Daddy Eats Last on iTunes if you haven't already. And while you're there, please leave a review. And tell your mates about the podcast, especially if they are guys. Most of all, thanks for listening. And we'll be back next week for the most boring bucket list in the history of bucket lists. And another serving of Daddy Eats Last. How's that for a dad joke? Catch you next week.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.